Good evening, ladies.
Kavod Harav, how are you?
Thank God.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we're doing a bet, second halacha. So it says Kara v'nichnas bet knesset. Yeah, so it says that he read it, and then he went into the synagogue. ומצא ציבור שקוראים צריך, and he found that the community is reading it now. He already read it, and he goes in there, and now they're reading it. So what's the rule? The rule is צריך לקרות עמהם פסוק ראשון. You have to read the first verse with them. This way you shouldn't look like you're, leaving yourself out of this accepting the yoke of heaven. Doesn't look good if you do that. So therefore you should read with them the first verse. And the rest you don't need to read because you already read it. שלא יהיה נראה כאילו אינו רוצה לקבל עליו עול מלכות שמיים עם החבריו. That's exactly the point. Okay, very good. So that's the tour, which is finished. Now we'll go to Bet Yosef. So it says Bet Yosef. He brings a source for this. Ken katab harosh beperek misha meto. It's from the Rosh Siman Yudalet. Hadi Aminan, regarding that which we said, Elamai Hirhur Lav Kedibur Dame, that is reading by heart, like reading out loud. Is it the same thing? Lama Me'ahir. I'm Rabbi Elazar. So it says over there, says Rabbi Elazar, כדי שלא יהיה כל העולם עסוקים, והוא יושב בטל מכאן. So he says, right, that we don't want that everybody's doing it and you're just sitting there doing nothing, right? It doesn't look good. Mikan katab bahag. So it says from here, the bahag says, Kara Kriyat Shema. If he was reading Kriyat Shema, he read it already. Ubala Bet Knesset. He came to the shul, as we said. Umatzah shekorim Kriyat Shema, and he found them reading Kriyat Shema there. קורא פסוק ראשון עמהם. So he says you should read the first pasuk with them. ובתרומת הדשן, סימן ג'. So he says in this book, כתוב, it's written there, שאם הוא עומד בברכות של קריאת שמע. If he's doing the blessings of קריאת שמע, כשהציבור קוראים את השמע, and the ציבור is reading the Shema itself. אינו להפסיק כלל. So he says there, you shouldn't stop. Why? Because you're also reading the blessings, and they're doing already the Shema. So he's trying to say, right, don't try to now jump ahead and read with them together because you still are not finished with the blessings. That's what he's saying. Okay. Why is that? Because we're only concerned in the case where he's not doing nothing, right? So he's just sitting there doing nothing. So then it looks like disrespectful, suspicious, whatever you want to call it. But if he's also reading the blessings, it doesn't look too bad. Looks pretty good. He's doing his thing, they're doing their thing. They're all serving God in one way or another. Okay. So then he goes on. So he says, but the one who's reading the blessings of the Shema, Atzma by itself, pshita de la batelhu. He's not idle, right? He's doing something, as we said, right? Not only that, he says, but even if he's just doing other types of praises of God, let's say he's reading Tehillim or whatever, maybe, or Psuke de Zimra, same thing, right? No mikra batel, it's not called batel. The Gaonim said, they said that you're not allowed to sit within 4 amot of a person who's praying. So it says, because of that, it seems like it would seem that even if you're between Baruch Shamar and Ishtabach, you really shouldn't stop to read the first pasuk of the Shema. Why? Since he's not sitting idle, doing nothing, he's not obligated to read with them. And therefore he says, why should he then stop? What's the point of it? Because you're not even allowed to talk over there. So, what's the point of it? So, but it seems like that's not really a source, so not really a proof. Because since he's stopping for the purpose of accepting the yoke of heaven, with the community, then it's good. Mikol says it's fine. It says in any case, but it says, what I have to tell you, I saw some people, who are very exacting about their service of God. When they were doing Kriyat Shema, and blessings, מנגנים בטבע אחד, או שתיים שהיו אומרים עליו, הכי באותו פעם, בניגון הציבור, בפסוק ראשון, כדי שנראה כאילו קורא עמהם עד כאן. So he says, what I saw, that you saw some holy rabbis, whatever, some holy people there. So their custom was like this, that if they were reading something else at that time, when the community is doing Shema, what they would do is like pretend like they're saying it with them. What does that mean? Like you cover your eyes as if like you're doing it together with them, and also maybe the melody as well, whatever, So he says that's what I saw them doing. And by the way, that's the custom nowadays also as well. The rabbis who are knowledgeable, what they do is like this, when the tzibur is reading the Shema, and they're doing something else at that time, what they do is like they cover their eyes, or with their hand or with their talit, and pretend like they're reading it together with them, but they're really not. They're reading something else. But the point is, that it looks like they're being a good boy. So who cares, right? God doesn't mind, and they don't mind either because they don't know what you're doing. So either way, right? You look kosher. You look like a kosher guy. So it really looks good. That's the idea. Okay, so let's see the Shulchan Aruch on that. So here we go, right? It says in the Shulchan Aruch that Kara Kriyat Shema v'nichnas bet knesset. He read Kriyat Shema. Now he comes into the shul, right? Umatzar tzibur shekorim Kriyat Shema, and he sees them that they're reading Kriyat Shema. Tzarich likrot imahem pasuk rishon. So he has to read with them the first pasuk, as we said, in order to look like he's also accepting the yoke of heaven. שלא יראה כאילו אינו רוצה לקבל עול מלכות שמיים עם חבריו. והוא הדין אם הוא בבית כנסת. Same thing also applies if he's already in the shul, right? He didn't just come in, he was already there. ואומר דברי התחנונים, and he's saying some other things, some other prayers, supplications, whatever, right? או פסוקים or verses, במקום שרשאי לפסוק, in a place where he's allowed to stop there. Same thing. So if he's allowed to stop there, he's allowed to make an interruption there, then he should do it. But if he's in a place where he's not allowed to interrupt there, like as we said, right, Psuke de Zimra or whatever, right, all kinds of things like this. Kegon, Baruch Shamar, from Baruch Shamar, Ve'elach onwards, Lo yafsik. So then he's not allowed to say the Shema there. Ela yomar atevot shehu omer. Rather, what he should do is read what he's reading. Go on. The time where the people are reading the first pasuk, benigun tzibur, right, together with the same melody as the tzibur. Sheyeh nireh ke'elu korei imahem. So it looks like he's reading with them. So this is the same thing, pretty much what we do today. And really, nobody's really doing some kind of a melody there today, nowadays. So therefore, what we do is we just cover our eyes, and pretend like we're saying it with them, and then once they're done, we go on from there, right? And carry on. Okay, good. That's Shulchan Aruch. Let's go to Gimel. So it says over here, Bet Yosef, Katav Rokeach. Says the Rokeach, Basiman Shin Chaf. Im Kara Kriyat Shema, Shitpalel Bebeto, or Bebet Ta'avel. Let's say he already read the Kriyat Shema, as we said, right? Why? Because he prayed at home, or he prayed at the mourner's home. Now he comes to the shul. So he says, right, you should read the whole Kriyat Shema with the tzibur. So he says, you get reward like you read the Torah. Because you already read the Kriyat Shema. So, can't do it twice. Ad kan Shana, that's what it says there. When he read the so he says Bet Yosef, this is just like, good advice. What does that mean? You're not really obligated to read the whole thing together with them. But he says, regarding the issue of not wanting to accept the yoke of heaven, im chaverav, with his fellows, the pasuk rishon sageh. So then it's enough just with the first verse. That's enough already. Kedivya bahag, like we said already in the bahag. So yeah, that's the story, right? So this is more like a chumrah he's telling you here, in the sense that you don't lose anything by just reading the whole thing with them. It's like you're reading the Torah. But if you got something better to do, let's say you're already learning some other thing, you're learning some other topic. So you don't want to now read the Torah with them, the Kriyat Shema. You have other things to do. So then why would you want to read with them the whole thing? Doesn't make any sense. So therefore, you'll just carry on wherever you are. It's all good. Baruch Hashem. Okay, so let's see the Shulchan Aruch, and we're done with this chapter. So says Shulchan Aruch, Ka Kriyat Shema v'nichnas b'beit knesset. Let's say he was reading the Kriyat Shema. He read it already. And then he comes into the shul. Umatzat tzibur shekorin Kriyat Shema. He found them reading Kriyat Shema. Tov sheikra imahem kol Kriyat Shema. It's good to read with them the whole thing, right? Not obligation, but it's good to read it. V'kabel schar kakoreh b'Torah. So then he'll get reward as if he's reading the Torah, which he actually is, right? And says in the Rama, but he says he's only obligated in the first verse, though. As we said, right, the rest is optional if you want to, if you got nothing better to do. Like it says in the Beit Yosef. Okay, very good. So there you go, right? We're all set with that. That this chapter is finished. Let's go to Samech Hey, Samech Vav. $66. Okay, so this is a very interesting chapter. So it says, so, there's always this question that comes up, right? And these are the rules. The question is, if you're saying Kriyat Shema, and somebody comes in there, your rabbi, your friend, your chavuta, whatever it may be, right? Whatever it is, your talmid, your disciple, your student, whatever, right? Somebody comes in. So the question is, right, do you say hello to him? Do you say greetings? You give him greetings? You don't give him greetings? When you're saying the Kriyat Shema, what's the rule with that? So that's what we're discussing over here, right? So it really depends on his status, right? This person. The question is, right, is he greater than you in Torah? He's bigger than you? He's your rabbi? He's your mentor, right? Whatever. Or is he equal to you? Like he's like your chavruta? About equal, more or less. Or is he your student, right? That makes a big difference because, or also could be that, the question is he a chacham? Is he learned or is he ignorant, right? Amaretz, it also depends on that, right? Same thing. There's also another category, right, which we're going to see, which is that he's not really a chacham, but the problem is that he's a scary guy, right? Gangster, somebody who's dangerous, right? Somebody who could take your life, who could kill you. So the problem is that not because he's very wise, but because he's very dangerous, So if you don't say hello to him, he may get offended and chop off your head. God forbid. right? So that's what we're talking about here. So says the Torah, if he's somebody who's nichbad, right? What does that mean? Somebody that deserves honor, right? He's a rabbi, or whatever, right? Something like that, or he's some kind of a president or whatever, right? Whatever. Okay, so so in a case like that, you answer him if you're in between the paragraphs. There are 3 paragraphs, as we said, right? So you're in between. If you're in between, you can answer him if he says hello to you. If he's somebody who's honorable. I'm sorry. So somebody who's honorable, you can even say hello. You can initiate and say hello. So what does that mean? You tell them, like good morning, Boker Tov, whatever, right? Something like that. You're allowed to say that. Or just say hi or whatever, God knows, right? Whatever it may be. Or how are you? Something like that. Okay, so, but it says if he initiates, right, and he says hello to you, so then you can answer anybody. In other words, it doesn't have to be somebody who's more honorable than you, even somebody just a regular guy. You should answer him. So when you're in the middle of the paragraphs, in between, I'm sorry, it's not right to say the middle. You're in between the paragraphs. This is the rule. The rule is that if he's honorable, you can initiate and say hello. If he's just a regular guy, you can answer him and say hello. But don't initiate. Okay, so then he goes on. What about if you're in the middle of the paragraph? Right, not in between. Even if you're in the middle of the verse itself, whatever. So there, you can initiate with somebody only if he fears him. That he may kill him or something, right? Whatever. And you can answer somebody there when it's in the middle because of kavod, because he's honorable. This is what the Torah says. This comes from the Talmud, obviously. Rashi explains, right? What does that mean, fear? Right? Adam mimenu. That means you fear this person. Shema Recital, you may kill him. There are some people, they take it personally. When you don't say hello, they're like, oh, okay, well, what, you pretend like I don't exist, huh? Okay, let me chop your head off. People like this, right? You gotta be careful. Okay, so nowadays we don't have that so much, in Western culture, right? Nobody's gonna chop your head off because you didn't say hello. But in those days, there were like people who were like kings, or lords, all kinds of things like this. So these people were dangerous. You can't mess with them. If you don't say hello to them, they'll chop your head off. There's actually a story in the Gemara about this. A certain rabbi that this happened to him. Actually, that there was a certain Roman lord that came to him and he didn't say hello. He didn't even answer him, right? So we're probably going to cover this story, but we'll get back to that in a second, right? Before we get to that story, let's just finish the basic idea here. So the Chen Katab Ram, this is the Rambam. The Rambam also wrote like that. So he says, Rambam also said, right, that what does it mean that you fear somebody? It means that he's a gangster, mafia guy, right? Whatever, right? One of those guys. So, so he says, but he says, my father doesn't agree with that. The Rosh doesn't agree with the Rambam. The Pshita. So he says, that's like obvious. What would you think, right? You shouldn't say hello. So you should chop your head off. What kind of thing is that, right? Because everything, supersedes saving your life. So obviously, right? It's obvious. Saving your life supersedes, right, all kinds of things like this. So obviously, you would have to give that up in order to save your life. So he says the Rosh, when it says that you fear somebody, it's not talking about a gangster, right, or something like that, or a king or something, right? Some kind of lord, whatever, right? No. We're talking about that you fear your father or your rabbi, right? Because you're supposed to fear them, right? The Torah tells us you have to fear your parents. Not only to honor them, also you have to fear them as well. And also the same thing with the rabbi as well. Diktiv, right? So where do we see that? Where is the verse? So the verse is Ish imo ve'aviv tirau, right? That's what it says. Each man should fear his father and mother. And then it comes and says in the Mishnah, Utanan, Mora Rabbecha kemora shamayim. Right? So it says the fear of your rabbi should be like the fear of God. So what does that mean? You have to fear your rabbi more than your parents, right? That's the idea. That's what it says in the Geonim. What about the issue of stopping in order to answer Kaddish and Kedusha and Baruch Hu when you're reading the Kriyat Shema? So he says, there the poskim had a dispute. So this is already a different halacha. We'll get back to that later. Let's go first see the Bet Yosef. So it says Bet Yosef, this is the source, right? Where is that? In the Brachot, Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. Ifligu Rabbi Meir Rabbi Yehuda, right? These two rabbis had an argument about this issue. The Matnitin and the Mishnah, the poskim paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. The Amar, so how does he paskin like Rabbi Yehuda? The Amar be'emsa shoel mipnei hayira or mashiv b'pri hakavod. When you're in the middle of the paragraph, you only initiate because of fear, and you answer because of honor. But in between, shoel mipnei hakavod, there you initiate because of the honor. You answer anybody. Okay. And he goes on, that which he said even in the middle of the verse. That comes from Yerushalmi, ad kedon be'emtza parasha, afilu be'emtza pasuk. So he says, even in the middle of the verse, the same thing he says. Rabbi Yirmiyah meramez, Rabbi Yonah mishta'eh. So he says, Rabbi Yirmiyah would just like signal hello, like wave his hand, But Rabbi Yonah would answer him, verbally. Rav Huna b'shem Rabbi Yosef V'dibarta bam, it says you should speak about them. Mikan, you learn from this. Sheyesh lecha reshut ledaber. You even have permission to speak. Katvu Arosh mashma leRabbeinu. So it says it implies to our rabbi. That means the Torah. That the Ravuna Maite B'dibarta bam. He brings it from this verse. Le'atir ledaber, that you can talk to somebody. Afilu be'emtza pasuk, even in the middle of the verse. Im Ken himself says Havele Rabbi Yirmiyah Yachid legabe Rabbi Yonah. So then it comes out. He says that Rabbi Yirmiyah is like a single opinion against Rabbi Yonah, Rabbi Yonah and Ravuna. So therefore, halacha is not like them. He's not like him. Umiu, he says, however, Matzati katu be'emtza pasuk Shema Yisrael. I did find written that in the middle of the Shema Yisrael, en le'afsik. In other words, if you're doing the first verse, right, there you shouldn't stop at all. You shouldn't interrupt. Because there's nothing greater than accepting the yoke of heaven, which is the first verse. Ad kan, that's the end of it. So it says, seems to me, also that verse, he says, it's also very crucial. I'm sorry, it's also part of the, unifying the name of God. Mitam zeh, he says, because of this reason, therefore you shouldn't interrupt in this time frame, right? Shema Yisrael and Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto. At that time, no interruptions whatsoever, no matter who it is and what it is. That's what he says. Then he goes on, Umash Katav Rabbeinu, and now what Rabbeinu said in the Torah, right? Rashi explains, that when it says regarding fear, it's talking about Adam Sheireh Mimenu, and some of you fear him, because he's a scary guy, a dangerous guy, right? But the Rosh doesn't agree with that, as we mentioned. So he says, all this is, it's obvious, the source says. It means to say that why should this Tana, this rabbi, teach you that you can initiate because of fear? So therefore he answers, right, we're talking about the fear of your father or your rabbi. This is also the Rashba, Tama al Divrei Rashi. He also had a wonder on Rashi, right? What's going on with that? The Rambam, and the Rambam also. Therefore, he explained that Rosh, like the Rosh. He also writes that somebody who's bigger than you in wisdom, even though it's not your rabbi. In other words, he's not your rabbi, but he is a rabbi who has a lot of wisdom, right? So, right, that's also fear. In other words, you have to fear him too. So therefore, you can also initiate with him to say hello. Okay, good. Let's take a look at the Shulchan Aruch here. Shulchan Aruch, Ben HaPrakim Shoel B'Shalom Adam Nichbad. As we said, right, that if you're in between the paragraphs, you can initiate with somebody who's honorable. Mashiv L'Shalom L'Chol Adam. You can answer anybody. Be'emtza, if you're in the middle of the paragraph, שואל בשלום, מי שהיה ירא ממנו, כגון אביו ורבו. You can, so there you can initiate with somebody that you fear, like your father and your rabbi. או מי שהוא גדול ממנו בחוכמה, or somebody who's bigger than him in wisdom. All the more so if it's a king, right? Which is dangerous, as we said, or anas, or some kind of gangster. But he can answer somebody who's honorable. Even in the middle of the verse. Except Shema Yisrael and Baruch Shem Kivod Malchut Olam, there you cannot answer. You cannot answer, stop there at all. Unless it's somebody that may kill you, right? So there, even in the first verse, you should stop because, saving your life comes before this mitzvah. Okay, very good. So that's the story there. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, let's go on. Yeah, I missed one piece over here in the Bet Yosef. So he says over here, the Rambam explains like this. Who Kedivre Rosh, like the Rosh, he says, Katav Od, the Misha Gadol Mimeno. He also has one more thing, the Rambam, that somebody who's greater than you in wisdom, even though it's not your rabbi, we read this, I'm sorry, yeah. So that's considered to be fear, right? So what does that mean? You should fear somebody, even he's bigger than you in wisdom. There you go. Okay.
Kavod Harav, I'm sorry. Does wisdom also could mean age? Someone who's
age is something else. That's something else. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to go on in the Bet Yosef. It says over here regarding what we said that a person, you can also, right, the issue of if you're answering Kaddish and Kedusha and Baruch Hu, there we said the poskim have a machloket, they have a dispute about that. If you're allowed to answer there or not. So it says regarding that Bet Yosef, Midire Rabbeinu Nireh, it seems like from the words of the tour, Shelo Haya Gores Besamak, he didn't have this text in the Samak, Ela Kaddish, only Kaddish, Ve'amen Shela Ela Kadosh, and also that. Ve'amen Shel Shomei Tefillah, and also that one. Umashmale, so it implies to him the Dafka Lehane Kamar the Mafsikin, that regarding these issues, they said that we stop, we can interrupt. But not for Kedusha and Baruch Hu. Says because of this, Katav Achar Zeh, he wrote afterwards, some say you should stop for everything, all these things. Klomar, Gam Kedusha Baruch Hu, also for Kedusha and Baruch Hu. Aber Benuscha Didan, where he says in our text, Katu Behedya, it says explicitly, right? Besamak to posek lekadish u'kedusha Baruch Hu. You're allowed to stop for all these things. About kasheri, but it says difficult for me. The vadai mashma, because it implies for sure Demand the Amar the Mafsikin Behanach. According to one who says that we stop in those places, Amenim, those amens that we talked about, Kol Shekin and Mafsikin the Kaddish Kedusha. All the more so, we stop for Kaddish Kedusha. Ubarachu and Barachu. Lechach, in other words, it doesn't make sense here. Lechach nireli. So it says, therefore, it seems to me, Shetzarich ligros. The proper text over there is like this. B'divrei Rabbeinu, in the words of the Tur, Keseder Hazeh, like this. Yesh Omrim. Some say, Af al pi sheshoel mipnei ha'ira. That even though that you can initiate because of fear, eno posek. He doesn't interfere, whatever. The chivan sheosek b'shivcho shel makom. Why is that? Because since he's praising God there, eno leafsik b'shvil shevach acher. So therefore, you shouldn't stop and do some kind of praise for something else. And some say and some say you can stop for anything. Even in the middle, the lo gara mima, because it's not any less than that he stops to initiate because of fear, and to answer because of honor. Says that's how the Rosh agreed to this opinion. The Samak Katav, and in the Samak it says, "Ve'onin Kaddish," that we answer Kaddish, ve'amen shel Ha'el Kadosh, and the amen of the Ha'el Kadosh, ve'amen shel Shomei Tefillah, and also this amen, b'chol makom, every place. Ad kan. Okay, the hashtag keshekatav yesh omrim. Now that he wrote that some say sheposek lechol. He stops everywhere. Even these things. But not those amens. And he says that's how the Rosh also agreed. And then afterwards he writes that the Samak also adds furthermore, to say that even for these amens we can also stop as well. Okay. Is this language of the Rosh? The Perek Hayakore over there in this Perek, he says over there, that which we said that in the middle of the paragraph, he initiates because of fear. He says the rabbis had a dispute about that. Regarding stopping for Kriyat Shema, and the blessings, the Kaddish Kedusha. For the Kaddish Kedusha, or Baruchu im posek im lav. Do we stop there or not? That's the question. Yesh mishomer. There is the one that says that even though he does initiate because of fear, and answers because of honor, but nevertheless he shouldn't stop for Kaddish Kedusha. Because since he's praising God there, he shouldn't stop to praise something else, some other praise, whatever. So he says most of the commentaries agreed that you should stop there, even in the middle of the paragraph, because it's not any less than somebody who stops to initiate because of fear, and to answer because of honor. That's the way Rabbeinu Yonah agrees. And he brings a source for this, since they had an argument later on, Kaf Aleph Amud Bet, if he stops for prayers, the Kaddish Kedusha, in the prayers, does he stop for Kaddish Kedusha? Even though we're going to discuss that later on, by the way, in laws of prayers. Do we stop for that in the prayers or not? Even though he concludes that the halacha is keman de amar eno mafsik, that he doesn't stop. When it comes to prayers, in other words, we don't stop in the Amidah. We don't stop. So it says, so in any case, since we see that when it comes to prayers, that even if it's a king, right, and he greets him, the king, he shouldn't answer him. Lo yashivenu. Nechleku im mafsik lekadish. They argue regarding if he stops for Kaddish, Biklal, the B'Kriyat Shema. So comes out in Kriyat Shema, Birchotea, and his blessings, the Kaimalan, the Mafsik, that he does stop, Lishol Mipnei Eira, because of fear, Ulashiv Mipnei Kavod, and answers because of honor. Peshita lehu lekulhu the Mafsik. So therefore, right, everybody agrees that he does stop. Therefore, it says, Kaddish Kedusha. When it comes to Kaddish Kedusha, Baruchu Mafsik does stop. Afilu be'emtza a perek, even in the middle of the paragraph. Dechen dati maskem. It says, I also agree to that. He says, Afa pish and seti natati b'davar b'ifnei haram. He says, even though I discussed this with this rabbi, the Ram, right, to see what he says about this. Ve'skima dato shen yafsik. He also agreed with me. He says that you shouldn't stop there. Tosfot Katu says Tosfot Kedira Rosh, they agree with the Rosh. Dechen Katav HaMordechi, also the Mordechai Beshem Avi Azri, the name of the rabbi. Dechen Katav Rashba, also Rashba B'Tshuva. The Davar Pashutu, so it says it's Pashut. Shemafsikin, that we do stop. Shareh Shoel Mipnei Ira, because you initiate because of fear. Meshiv Mipnei Kavod, and answer because of honor. Katu B'Shibur Leket. So it says in Shibur Leket. So look what it says, very interesting. That it seems like if he forgot to put tefillin, so you can stop in the middle of the in between the paragraphs and put your talit and tefillin. So he shouldn't be like, he's testifying falsely about himself. What does that mean? He's reading the Kriyat Shema without talit and tefillin, which is like contradicting yourself, because you're saying that you should be wearing it and you're not wearing it. How can I know? Right? And we already, by the way, said in the Bet Yosef beforehand, a few weeks ago, that also includes the blessing as well. So what does that mean? If a person didn't have tefillin, and he started the Kriyat Shema, the blessings, whatever, and then the tefillin came in the middle, right? So he's allowed to put on a tefillin and the talit, even with a blessing. It is also say the blessing as well. That's what we said. Okay. That's what it says also there. So it says, we're going to erase all this stuff in the parentheses here. That's why I didn't read it, because when you have round parentheses, that means you're not supposed to read it. So he says, therefore, right, erase that and say this instead. So Siman Pei. That's what Rabbeinu also said, the Torah, in the end of chapter 80, Katav Shivarech Aleim, and he also said he should bless on them, as we said, right? He also bless on them. Vehem Divrei Arosh B'Tshuva, it's also the Rosh and the Tshuva. Katvu Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah. They wrote the Talmidim Rabbeinu Yonah. The Limudim Nami Mafsik B'chol Makom. Ulanot Ben Lekadish Ben Kedusha Ben Lemodim. So this is also when you're modim, for modim, you should stop whether you're you're in Kaddish or Kedusha. Ben lemodim, right, or it's modim. Either all these things you have to stop and answer. But he says when it comes to Amidah, though, since you're not allowed to talk there at all, Cloud, right? That's already something else. We don't answer over there. So he says, we say in Yerushalmi Perek Bet, you should speak about them. Bam yesh lecha reshut ledaber. There you have permission to talk. But not in the Amidah. The Katut od Talmidei Rabbeinu, they also wrote Aval nireh lemori, but they said it seems to our teacher, right? Harav the dai b'sheishche bilvad. So he says, you know what? It's enough just to to bow a little bit, right? To show him that you're greeting him. In other words, no reason to actually talk. But here we're talking about the modim, right? The modim. So what does that mean? That when it comes to modim, to answer for modim, just like bow a little bit, you don't have to actually say the whole thing, like the other people are saying. Sheim yomar yotzreinu yotzrei bereshit, because you're going to say all these things. It's like a big stop there, you're making a big break. Ad kan. And since he wrote that it's enough that he should just bow a little bit, so it implies that even the word modim, you should not say, even that you shouldn't say, one word, modim. Shem haya umrah, because if you would say it, then you would have to finish it. That's a big break. Therefore it says, lo yomar klum, they shouldn't say nothing. Ella, rather, shoche bilba, just bow a little bit. V'dayo, that's enough. It seems more also, lefaresh, that he intends to say, shomar milat modim, that he should say, modim, just the word modim. Deim lo ken, because if not so, my mafsik, then gamar, then what does it mean you should stop? Ha shechiach lechud lo mikre mefsek. Because just by bowing doesn't mean you stopped. So it also seems from the words of Harav David Abudrehem, also this rabbi, shkatab b'shem Rabbeinu Yonah, that he wrote the name of this rabbi, sheposek lemodim, that he stops from modim, katab od, sheposek lebaruchu, when he stops for Baruch Hu, ולמודים, and modim, יש אומרים שאינו אומר אלא Baruch Hu בלבד. Some say it just says Baruch Hu. וכן במודים, also modim, אינו אומר, it just says אלא modim בלבד, just modim. ושוכח, and he bows, ויש אומרים שאומר Baruch Hu ישתבח ויתפאר. That when in Baruch Hu should say ישתבח ויתפאר. וכן מודים דרבנן, also מודים דרבנן, עד כאן לשנו. So some say you should say the whole thing, some you should say only just one word. ובתרומת הדשן, this rabbi, הכריע שפוסק ואומר מודים. He says, just say modim, ולא סגי בשכייה בלבד. It's not enough just to bow there. אך לא ביאר אם יאמר כל המודים דרבנן. But he didn't say if you should say the whole thing though, or not, or לא, just one word of the whole thing. לא יאמר אלא תיבת מודים, just one word. בלבד. והלכה למעשה, so he says, what's the halacha? Bottom line, right? It says בית יוסף, נראה לי שלא יאמר אלא תיבת מודים. Just say modim, that's good enough. Interesting. Okay, good. So let's use Shulchan Aruch and we're done, right? Yeah, so it says, Im shachach le'aniach tzitzit betfilin. Let's say he forgot to put tzitzit in tefillin, whatever. Yachol le'afsik ben aprakim le'anicham. You can stop in the right in between the paragraphs and put them. And also to bless on them. You can bless on them as well. It says Rama Haga v'yesh omrim shelo yivarech alehem ad achar tefillah. But some say you should wait till after the prayers and then bless on it, right? And this is, that's the custom. He says, talit, regarding talit. So it seems like they differentiate between the talit and the tefillin, the Ashkenazim. But the truth is that it really shouldn't make any difference either way. So the custom of the Sfaradim, it seems like that we bless on both of them. Talit and tzitzit in the middle of the paragraphs, in between, right? Not in the middle, in between. Okay. So good. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see what's next. Yeah, it seems like we skipped a little bit the Beit Yosef. We skipped something here, so I'm gonna read it now. So v'hadi katav samak, that which the samak said, the mafsik la'anot amen, that he should stop to say amen shel Ha'el Kadosh of Ha'el Kadosh. V'shel shomei tefillah, and also shomei tefillah, lamad ken midyamina beYerushalmi. This comes from Yerushalmi. He says, Perek tefillat shachar over there. This Perek halacha bab lo yitpalel shacharit. It says over there, don't say shachrit uvalatzion and uva. I'm sorry, I didn't say it right. One more time. Lo hitpalel shachrit uva umatzan shemitpalelim. He didn't pray shachrit yet, right? So he came to the shul and he found them that they're praying shel musaf. They're doing musaf. Okay. They're already doing musaf. Im yodea she'im yatchil. If he knows that he can start, יגמור עד שלא יגיע שלו שליח ציבור. לענות אחריו אמן. If he can start until shliach tzibur, he'll be able to answer the shliach tzibur amen. Yitpalel, he should pray. Ve'im lav, he can't do that. Lo yitpalel, he shouldn't pray. Be'eze amen amu. So the question is like, which amen are we talking about here? Three Amoraim, right? Two Amoraim argue about this. Chad amar be'amen shel Ha'el Kadosh. One says it's talking about the amen of Ha'el Kadosh. V'chad amar be'amen shel Shomei Tefillah. One says it's talking about Shomei Tefillah. Amar b'Pinchas lo pligun man de amar. So be'amen shel Ha'el Kadosh. B'Shabbat uman de amar. Right. So he says says this rabbi, there's no dispute between them actually. Why? Because one is talking about El Kadosh Shabbat. Uman de amar be'amen shel Shomei Tefillah b'chol. When it says Shomei Tefillah, we're talking about weekdays. So in other words, on Shabbat, it's this one. On the weekdays, it's the other one. So the Katav Rabbeinu Agadol Maria. So this rabbi said, right? What's the reason for that? Why are we more concerned about the amen for these brachot than the other amens? Right? What's the difference? It's all the same apparently. Amen shel Ha'el Kadosh lefi shehu siyum. So it says because Ha'el Kadosh, it's the end of the shevach shel shlosha rishonot. It's the end of the praises of the first three blessings. Shel shomei tefillah and also shomei tefillah lefi shehu siyum and tzayot. It's the end of the middle blessings. Vehi gam ken bracha kolelet. So he said that's also like an inclusive blessing there. What about the amen of the last three? Doesn't say that one. Because even this, the individual answers that. Even after the end of 18 brachot. Says therefore, and therefore he says he shouldn't have to stop. He shouldn't stop. Because some person came late, that he should himself say it. The Talmud Adidan, so he says, but our Talmud, the Bavli, mashma the Paligar Yerushalmi. It seems like he's arguing on the Yerushalmi. Kemo shechtov b'siman kuftet, like we're going to write over there in chapter 109. B'siyata dishmaya. With God's help, he says, therefore, look at katavuhu paskim. Therefore, the Poskim didn't write it. Right, so the conclusion of Bet Yosef here seems to say like this, right? That this whole thesis here, that we also have to answer Amen to these two blessings, Hayla Kadosh and Shomea Tefillah, he says that it comes from the Yerushalmi. But the Bavli, right, the Art Talmud, doesn't have it. So therefore, it seems like it's not the halacha. Right? And therefore, this is the reason why he didn't bring the Shulchan Aruch here, this whole lesson here, because it seems like we don't go like that. We don't pass like that. So, what does that mean? It means that for those two amens, we don't answer if we're in the middle of Kriyat Shema or some other important place. We don't answer. It's not considered to be so important by us. So therefore, where do we answer? Right, that's the question. So as we said, right, we answer for Modim and Kaddish and Baruch Hu, right? Let's see the Shulchan Aruch and we're done. So it says, it's going to tell you now the whole list right over here. Why should I say it before the Shulchan Aruch? So it says like this, right? Lekadish u'kedusha u'baruch hu. For all these things, right? Kaddish, kedusha, and baruch hu, mafsik, he should stop there and answer, right? Afilu be'emtza pasuk, even if he's in the middle of the verse. V'chen lemodim, also modim. Aval lo yomar ela tevat modim bilvad. But he says you should only say modim, that's it. So says the Rama, Haga, v'chen bebaruch hu lo yomar itbarach v'ishtabach. Also with baruch hu, right? Don't say the extra stuff. Just say the critical stuff, right? ויש אומרים דאמן שעונים אחר ברכת האל הקדוש, so some say also this amen after אל הקדוש, ואחר שומע תפילה שומע יש לו דין קדושה, they also have דין קדושה, ויוכל לענות אותם בקריאת שמע, you can answer them, ואיך ניכר. So the Rama says, right, that's the halacha. So what does that mean? The Ashkenazim have this custom, right? That they also answer those amens that we just mentioned, right? Which is after Hal Kadosh and the Shomea Tefillah. But we Sfaradim, we don't do it. לכן, אנא מילה מכל שכן באומר התחנונים. לכן עיקר ולכל it says all these things we stop. This is all the more so if you're saying tachanunim, all the more so if you're saying just supplications, right? You should stop and answer. So let me just see the Mishnah Berurah here 1 second. Yeah, so what he means to say the Rama is like this, right? That in all these places that we mentioned, we do answer there for these things, right? In the Kriyat Shema. So as we said, right, the difference between the Ashkenazim and Sfaradim is that we don't answer the amens of Shomea Tefillah and Hayla Kadosh, and they do answer even in those places, right? The Kriyat Shema and so forth and so on. Okay, any questions, guys? All right. Okay, so I guess we're done.
We have to do an Erev Tefillin for tomorrow, right?
Right. Yes, you have to do an Eruv. So the rule is that we do that, in the afternoon before sunset, right? We make one cooked dish, like an egg, and one piece of bread or a matzah or something, and we make a blessing on it, and yeah, that's how we make the eruv.
We also have to do a 24-hour candle.
Only, yeah, I mean, it's a good idea because you probably want to light Shabbos candles, right?
Yes.
So that's the only way you could do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to have something to pick it from.
Okay. Thank you.
And also, if you want to cook, right, that would also be necessary to take from the existing light, the existing fire, and pass it along to some other fire, right?
Well, we can't cook for Shabbat tomorrow, though, right?
Yeah, we could. That's the whole thing, right? That's why we make the eruv. If you want to make your cholent, right, on Friday night, I'm sorry, not Friday night, like, Friday afternoon, right? You could do that, yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Just like any other for Shabbat.
And we could also prepare food before the holiday comes in, right?
I'm sorry?
You can also, if we wanted to, could prepare food for Shabbat before the
Right,
holiday.
that's the whole thing. Preparing, cooking, all that stuff, right? Yeah. Also, arranging and all that stuff. Lighting the candles, blah, blah, blah. That's why we make the eruv, to do all these things.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? All right, so have a great holiday. Chag Kasher v'Sameach.
Thank you so much.
Be blessed. Wealth, health, happiness. To accept the Torah, B'ezrat Hashem, with love and fear. And we'll see you next week, B'ezrat Hashem, Sunday night.
Amen.
Sounds good.
After you receive the Torah already. God bless.
Thank you, Kavod.
Chazak Baruch, all the best.
Sameach.